Pitt fans? I'm Jason Earle, and welcome to the Beyond the Script podcast, where we take you inside Pitt Athletics with the people who shape the program. Every episode, I'm sitting down with the coaches, athletes, and administrators who are doing the work every single day to build something here at Pitt. New episodes drop weekly, so make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want the full story on everything Pitt Athletics, head to PittsburghPanthers.com. Today, we'll chat with three members of our track and field and cross-country programs, Alonzo Webb, his son Alonzo Webb III, and Griff Graves. We'll talk with the Webbs about what it's like to lead the program as father and son, and also catch up with Coach Graves on what we should look forward to in the upcoming fall season. We'll also chat with Pitt men's basketball head coach Jeff Capel as he prepares for his 9th season at the helm of the program. We'll hear all about summer workouts and learn even more about the new additions on the roster and the coaching staff. Let's go beyond the script. And with that, back here on the Beyond the Script podcast, we welcome in Coach Alonzo Webb, just finished 24th season Director of Track and Field and Cross Country here at Pitt, and Coach Alonzo Webb III, a.k.a. Coach Zoe, Associate Head Coach. Guys, thanks so much for being with us here on Beyond the Script. How's the summer going?
Thanks for having us, Jason. It's going really quickly, as usual. They always do.
Yeah, definitely seems to go by fast. How about you, Coach, though?
Yeah, man, it's been good time with the family, but, track-wise, it's a fake reset. We're ready to go.
Yeah, one moment it's June, and you think you got the whole summer ahead of you, and before you know it, we're back in August. So, but Zoe, let's start with you. You graduated from Pitt 2010, correct? So,
yes, sir.
About 16 years at Pitt after your graduation now.
Yeah.
As we get into, a lot of what you guys do in track and field and in cross country, there's so many things that goes into this program. When you think about, sprints, hurdles, throws, jumps, there's all kinds of these different areas. How does your staff kind of cover all of that? Where does your role, Zoe, fall in all of that as well?
Yeah, it's been unique. The 16-year journey here, starting as a volunteer to now our associate head coach. I've been able to help Coach Webb show his vision, and his vision is that we have 6 very capable coaches who are the CEOs of their own area, and we get a chance to support and make sure they're growing their athletes in their event group. Get the best care, the best coverage, but. Coach Webb lets us do our thing. He doesn't micromanage us, so we get to coach our athletes, and it's awesome.
Allows it to work really well. Seems like you guys have a great relationship, not just you as father and son, but the entire staff as well. Coming off some really exciting moments for the program in June at the NCAA Outdoor Championships in Eugene, Oregon. Very historic moment for the program to send Emeka Ugwu, Nia Crawford to that championship. Coach Webb, what did that mean for you to watch both of them perform on that national stage in that moment?
It always means a lot when you have someone get to the pinnacle of their sport as far as collegiate competition goes, and to have 2 athletes, one male, one female, make it to the national championships. It was big for us. It was the first time in history that's ever been done. And so, Coach Yeoman has done a great job with the throws group, and I think you're going to see some more exciting things coming out of that group again this year. For both of them, it was their very first time at nationals. Unfortunately for Nia, she graduated, but she did graduate on top as an All-American. And Emeka, he has another opportunity to come back for another couple of years and see what he can do and hopefully get on the podium and be first-team All-American.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Emeka and Nia, and kind of the difference between the two of them is that Emeka was able to accomplish that as a sophomore, and Nia differently, kind of a good way to put a cap on her career with Pitt. But let's start with Emeka there, Zoe, as a sophomore, for him to be able to achieve that. How unique is that? What was impressive about the way he prepared for that and earned that as just a sophomore?
Yeah, I've watched this kid from, this shy kid coming overseas and being in the U.S. for the first time, not knowing what to expect, going through a technical change and just growing. But he set a goal for himself this year, and he kept telling me throughout the year, Coach, I'm going to be at Nationals. I want to be at Nationals. He wrote it. He said he wrote it on his mirror. He looked at it every single day. He kept giving me check marks of, hey, I'm being more intentional. I cut this out of my life. I'm focused. He wanted that, and he did every little thing, and I think it drove the people around him, especially the closeness he had with Nia of pulling her along of, we're going to do this thing together. he wanted to break the school record. He said, if I do this at the right time, it'll get me where I want to go. He did it at the right time and got him where he wanted to be.
That's an awesome story. And I love especially hearing in some of these sports that can at times be a little bit more individual. I love hearing those moments about how they do interact as a team. And if he was working with Nia and the two of them are saying, hey, we're both going to do it, that's kind of where that team aspect still comes into play, even though a lot of the accolades that come with this sport can sometimes be individual. But then as we shift to Nia, Coach Webb, go to you. Just what was, your perspective as you see Nia as a senior, all the work that had been put in throughout her career to be able to, achieve that at the end of it and really kind of have her career culminate with a moment like that.
Yeah, it was really amazing to see her growth over the 4 years. And, we always talk about it, that she was probably one of the biggest competitors I've ever seen in big situations. You want them to be the best when the best is required. So at the ACC championships and things like that, she always comes through. And on paper, you would think she wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean? But there's always something inside someone you don't ever know until it needs to be shown like that. So with her, if you look back on her career, she had her ups and downs, but when it came to championship competition, indoor, outdoor, ACC, she came through for us as a team, for the team. So she's just amazing, and I'm really going to miss her because she brought fire to this program, And it's funny because her sister, I recruited her sister earlier. Now, how many years before
4
that?
Years before.
Yeah, and she was on the team, and she was a more accomplished athlete coming out of high school, but Nia well surpassed what was expected of Nia coming in. So you just never know,
Yeah.
And her sister was really great, and I just actually sent her a happy birthday. Her sister, Nina, it's like 2 days ago, I sent her a happy birthday. But her sister, and she was so happy for her,
Yeah.
They supported her. Her mom and dad came to the national championships to watch her. It was really good. So
I can't even imagine how many relationships you guys must have with former student athletes. 24 years for you, 16 for you. Your entire phone contact list is probably just former student athletes, right?
Yeah.
But that's awesome. I love hearing that you're able to keep in touch with her sister. That's really cool stuff. And congrats again on an awesome moment for the program that happened back in June. Want to shift gears a little bit to the two of you as father and son leading this program and seem to have worked extremely well to this point. Have to mention that you guys were featured on the Today Show 3 years ago, by the way, which I don't know if everyone knows that. That's awesome. And when I found out that we were going to have you guys as guests, I was like, well, if we're booking the same guests that the Today Show's getting, we're doing something right here. So
there you go.
Yeah.
This is cool for us.
Yeah. Now, how was that moment? I'll give you a chance to touch on that in that feature a few years ago.
Yeah, I mean, for me, as a son, to do a Father's Day feature with this guy, it was pretty special. I hands down one of the coolest things I've done to this date, and it wasn't about myself and my journey and being there. It was truly Coach Webb, as my dad, getting the chance to get the flowers he deserves as a father. I wouldn't be here if he didn't do what he did and sacrifice, work, and show me the blueprint of if you want something, you can go do it. And so that was just special, man. It was a cool thing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Craig Melvin and that crew. They really made us feel comfortable, but they let us tell the story of a father and a son. So
it was great to watch, and I do want to hear more about how this came about because it has worked so well for the two of you leading this program. At what point, Zoe, maybe in your career, and Coach Webb for you, where was kind of the moment where you guys were like, all right, we might actually be able to do this. We might actually be able to have Zoe on staff with you, and sure enough, you did. But what was the lead up to that?
Yeah, the lead up was really unique. I didn't want to coach, man. As a coach's kid, and I know, being in the same industry as a parent is tough. People cast things on you. I never really wanted to do it. But shout out to our life skills department. They were like, "What's your passion?" Okay, your passion's helping people. How can you do that? Well, you connect with people every day. If you're coaching, your dad's coaching. He's leaving the door open for you. You'd be silly not to pair those two things together. And so I was able to take that leap. But Coach Webb fought for me. He fought for me to become a full-time staff member. That was not an easy path. Really, thank you to the university and the administration for for allowing that to happen, because it was not easy. And I stuck with it because I wanted to support Coach Webb, and then I fell in love with coaching. I didn't want to give this thing up. So that journey was a battle, and I think because it was a battle, it's given me so much deep appreciation for the amount I've been able to do it so far.
So, Coach Webb, what's going through your head as he's sitting there saying, I don't want to coach. I want to get into something else?
It was okay for me because, as a father, you want your children and your kids to do what they have a passion for. And, I remember the day he came in and said, hey, he came in as a finance major, and I think he switched to communications. And when he graduated, he said, hey, Dad, I'm not sure what I really want to do with my career or whatever. And I said, hey, you can volunteer for me for a year and try to figure it out. And that's the way I recall it. I'm not. He may see it differently.
No, that was it.
But I said, okay, you can volunteer and see if you like this thing, and maybe just give you a time to evaluate your life and see what you want to do. And he came to me after a year and said, I think I like this. And so he volunteered another year, and then we put him on staff. I think you were like he got a stipend or something like that the third year. And he was doing such a great job. And I gave him, it was the first year, I sort of baby stepped him through, give him the workouts and let him do things. But as he picked up so quickly, and I think just because being around me for his entire life coaching, he knew a lot more than he gave himself credit for. You know what I mean? So it was really easy for him. And then I saw the passion, I saw the success he was having right away. I think his first year he may have had the Big East. We were in the Big East at the time. He had a Big East champion in the women's triple jump indoor. Wow. And so from there, I knew he had what it took, to be great. He thinks he's better than me now, but he's still not. He's closing in, but he'll never be as good as me.
Standard,
Yeah.
And here we are earlier. He's talking about how much he lets you guys kind of do your thing, and he doesn't micromanage. And now I'm hearing maybe behind closed doors he's a little bit more confident in his work. But no, it seems like you guys have an awesome relationship. How has it worked now day to day in the office? I imagine when it comes to recruiting, culture, all these different things that you're trying to establish within the program, that's an advantage too. Not just the fact that you were around Coach Webb your entire life, but the fact that you guys now have that connection that you can use now when you're figuring out the direction you want the program to go.
Yeah, it's been a huge benefit. From all the steps of recruiting, we tell people this is a family. And people look at it as family because it's me and Coach Webb, but it's family because the environment he creates for our whole staff and the whole team gets to mirror and become an extension of our family nucleus. And, D-West is a big part of that family too. 16 years, we started a week apart. And so we have kind of the big three of creating a family environment for our athletes. Recruits see that, they feel that. Our other coaches can recruit off of that as well, and it brings them in. So when they get to Pitt and it's the exact same that they got during the recruiting pitch, it feels comfortable. So it's really, really helped us get a lot of buy-in. Our athletes are comfortable. They want to be here. They want to be here for 4 years, 5 years. Some of them want to be here for longer. They don't want to leave, which is a huge benefit and, a stamp to the culture that Coach Webb has created and asked for from our staff.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Coach Webb, we're going to keep you on. We're going to have Griff Graves join us in a moment. But Zoe, before we let you go, I want to give you one final chance to talk about anything within the program right now that's happening that fans of Pitt Athletics should know about, things that you guys are doing right now over the summer and as we get into the fall to improve the Pitt track and field cross-country programs as we approach another year here.
Yeah, I just want them to know that, on a daily basis, we're working to elevate the culture and the vision of the University of Pittsburgh to the highest standards. We're bringing in and recruiting the top athletes, but they also have the intangibles of being really great in the classroom. They know this is a world-class institution. They know the resources we provide and the way that they're going to be successful in life. And we've really put together a nucleus. We're super young. We're really, really young. But young becomes experienced at some point when they stay. So we're looking forward to becoming experienced and getting you guys in the community to see what 4 years of working together and doing this thing the right way looks like and the success that they're going to have together. And then, excited for the rest of our coaches to flourish in their areas. I think we've done a great job of supporting their visions and putting the right kids in place. So we'll have a full track and field and cross-country team, which is a priority of Coach Webb's, and we're going to keep that. But yeah.
Well, and Coach Webb, next year is year 25, correct?
Yeah.
So congratulations in advance on that. Thank you both for joining me. Like I said, Coach Webb, we'll have you stick around. But Coach Zoe, thanks so much. Appreciate the time. We'll be back here in a moment on the Beyond the Script podcast. Back on the Beyond the Script podcast, glad to be joined once again by Coach Webb and now also Coach Griff Graves, cross-country head coach here at Pitt since 2023. Coach Webb, we talked with you a little bit, and Coach Graves, thanks for joining us here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, appreciate it. How's the summer going for you?
Good. Just like Coach Webb said, quick. They always go quick, but it's good. Good time with family, and good time getting prepared for the season. So we're excited.
And it is quickly approaching. The Panther Open begins the season September 4th at Schenley Park. What are the good things that come from that, just being able to open up the season right here in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think it's a really unique opportunity. You know, not all cross-country programs get to open the season at their home course, right? And so super unique opportunity for us to kind of race great other universities in the area and also be able to see the student body here a little bit at Pitt come out for something like what we do. You know, mostly it's the program, mostly it's people in the athletic department administration. They do a great job of supporting us out there, which is awesome. And so it's a really unique opportunity to do that and race where we get to train on a day-to-day basis, which is really cool too.
What are some of the biggest things that you're prioritizing between now and then in that first week of September there?
And mostly is making sure that the kids do their homework over the summer, right? That's the biggest thing for what we do is you have to build an incredible base over the summer. And so as long as they're getting their miles in, they're being diligent about the core, the strides, the little things that it takes to be great during the season over the summer, they should be back and ready and prepared to roll.
And I'm sure you probably noticed if they weren't doing those things over the summer.
For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. Coach Webb, I'll go to you. I think one of the most interesting things I always like to ask coaches is obviously there's a culture that you look to instill within your team, but there are differences among groups year over year and in the student athletes that you do have. What do you think has made the group that you have right now unique, especially for someone like you that has been here so long and coached for so long? What stands out to you about the group you have right now?
I think what stands out the most is that they all like each other, you know, and that's one of the things we talk about during the recruiting process. We want the right kids here in this program. We'll pass on somebody who we don't feel is going to be the right fit for our program culture-wise. And Coach Graves does an amazing job he does this thing, it's called cultural infusion, and he could probably talk to you a little bit more about it. But, you know, he has a certain type of athlete he wants in his program, and that's what we want as well. So when he does his job, we do our job on our part with the track and field side of it. But we want people here who actually want to be here, not just because of a scholarship or anything like that. So number one, that, you know, you want to come here and get a great education is the priority. And then closely behind that is you want to be the best athlete you can be. So that's what it really comes down to. So with that, what Coach Graves is doing with the distance athletes and what we're doing here with the other track and field athletes in the sprints, hurdles, jumps, multis, then it just works together. And we train together, you know, the men and women train together for the most part. So they have that family bond, you know, and they really like each other, you know, and not just because that, you know, that's what we want to do, but it's been intentional. But they really do like each other, and that's one of the big things for us. If you're not a culture person, then we don't want you in our program.
Feels like an always underrated aspect of any team that people overlook, but it is so important when you have that type of camaraderie. Coach Graves, I'll give you the floor then. I think you mentioned cultural infusion was the way he phrased it. How did this start? What do you like about how you've kind of used this throughout your career?
For sure, yeah. So something we do at the beginning of every year in the fall before we get kicked off with cross-country season, and we'll do a movie night, and we'll eat some food together, which is always great, right? Building camaraderie. Usually the movie has some sort of an element that relates to what we do, right? Which is really nice. But I stole the idea from Dabo Sweeney, honestly.
Wow.
He had it, and I thought it was a great idea for helping build that culture. You know, Coach Webb talks about the culture that we have in the program, and he does an incredible job of making sure that we are a family, that we care about one another. And in cross country, that's incredibly important. and it's incredibly important on the track as well. But if you're not willing to fight for your team, it's going to be very, very hard to be good as a team, right? And you can, in our sport, you can have a day that's a little off for you, but what you do and your role for that day applies to the rest of the team. And if you quit, then the rest of the team's not going to be as good as they could be, right? And so that culture of genuinely caring about each other really, really has a big impact in that, because if you don't really care about your teammates, you're going to quit on the day, when your goal goes out the window.
So what are some of the movies you've gone to help help teach all of that?
We've done Survive and Advance. Sometimes they're documentaries.
Okay.
Survive and Advance is a great one. The 1983 NC State basketball championship team, coached by Jimmy V. I think that's one of the best sports documentaries of all time. So we love that one. We've done that one. We've done True Grit, the newer one with Jeff Bridges and Haley Steinfeld. So it just depends. Sometimes they're real movies. Sometimes they're sports docs. Sometimes they're movies that the kids are like searching to try to figure out what it means, but eventually, they get it, right? With some, taking a step back and looking at, what were the themes that we're trying to get out of this?
Yeah, that's neat. I love it. Love the recommendations. So appreciate that. Coach Webb, obviously you were on with Coach Zoe earlier, but we're not going to let you out of here without talking about the fact that you are arguably the best dressed person in all of college athletics.
Thank you.
This is not anything new for you to be dressed to the nines. Awesome suit you're rocking today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
This happens all the time. And it seems like anytime I see you on campus out and about, you're rocking a sweet new suit. So how did this start? Give us kind of the origin story of this for you.
Well, it's ironically, I was thinking about that this morning, and I don't know where it came from. I was getting dressed this morning trying to figure out what suit to wear.
You knew I was going to ask you about it.
No, I actually didn't. I had no idea. But yeah, I was thinking about it, and I said, I knew, when people ask me about that, they do it a lot. They say, hey, how'd you start wearing suits or whatever, or what was the reason? And I think, Jesse Owens was my hero, and I think he's probably millions of people's heroes. But he was my hero. And I used to go to the libraries. I grew up on the north side, and I would go to this Carnegie Library, and I sit in there on the weekends and in the summer for hours at a time, looking through all the encyclopedias about track and field and the Olympic Games. And one thing that I noticed was that almost in every picture, there was a coach at the finish line with a stopwatch, and they had a suit on or a fedora or a shirt and tie. And when I started coaching collegiately, I said, man, I want to bring that back. There's something to that. And with me, I respect this sport so much. This is beginning my 55th year overall coaching. Wow. And I respect it so much, and I respect this university. So I want to represent it at a high level. So I started doing that. And I started talking to someone about this. I said, I don't remember the first day I did that, but I remember how I felt. I was in my hotel room, and I brought a suit to wear, a couple suits to wear, and I knew everybody else was going to be dressed like regular track coaches with shorts on and T-shirt and things like that. So I put my suit on, I looked in the mirror, and I was like, oh, man, it's too late now. I didn't bring anything else to wear. It's too late. I got to do it. So I walked out to the track, and I knew I was getting all kind of stares, and people were laughing and pointing at me and snickering and making comments and stuff like that. And so I said I felt really weird and awkward, but I kept doing it, I liked it, And then I found out that later on, a lot of the younger coaches was coming up to me and saying, man, I wish I could wear a suit like that, or I want to be just like you. So it actually changed. Now everybody knows me around the country as the best dressed track and field coach in the NCAA. And that means a lot to me. And I think one of the other things I thought about this morning, and I never thought about this before, but I grew up pretty poor on the north side. My mother was a single parent, 9 children on welfare, and we didn't have a whole lot of money, and my mother couldn't buy all the nice clothes. We went to Goodwill and things like that, but she was more worried about what we were going to eat the next day, as opposed to what we're going to wear. So I think part of me, and I told somebody earlier, I said, if I would have gone on Oprah, she probably would have said, it's probably something in your childhood why you did this, you know what I mean? And I said, it probably was. Yeah, because I couldn't afford the nice clothes and stuff when I was younger. So when I'm able to afford nicer clothes, and maybe that's part of it too. But I think really the crux of it came from I used to see it all the time in pictures in the library, and I think that's the reason I did it, and it feels good. And I like to represent the university in a first-class manner. And when we go to track meets, my staff is always dressed alike, with the polos on and looking really nice. And we look like a team and we look together. So that's what my standard is.
I love it. And you talked about this with Craig Melvin. I know we mentioned the Today Show appearance a few years ago. And Zoe was asked, your son was asked why he doesn't do the same thing. And his response was he's not cool enough to rock a suit. Very few people are.
And he said, I don't pay him enough. That's right.
Well, we'll leave that conversation for another time. Thanks so much for the background on that. Do you know how many you have, by the way?
I'm probably down some because I've donated about 6 months ago, I've donated about 30 suits to the church, and I have another 17 I'm getting ready to donate. So I'm starting to pare down on the suits now. I probably have just over 100 suits.
Wow.
And then I have probably about 30 or 40 suit jackets, like sport jackets, dinner jackets, and everything. And probably, I don't know, probably a couple hundred shirts and all that. So I'm getting too much. When your closet starts to fall, the rod starts to fall down, and the wife says, "Hey, you got to get rid of some of those suits." Then you sort of listen to her.
You had to get a heavier rod to hang all those suits up. That's awesome. I love that you just took it, you owned it, you made it your thing, and all these years later, still doing it. So appreciate you diving into that. But guys, as we wrap up, Coach Graves, we'll start with you. Just want to give you the floor to talk about anything else that excites you about the upcoming year.
For sure. Yeah, no, we're excited. We got a young group, especially on the men's side, a real young group, but they're talented. And we're excited to see who steps up this year, and we have a lot of guys capable of doing so. We've got Luke Simpson back, who just set our school record in the mile indoors this past year, ran 3:57, and he's really, really good in cross country as well. So we're excited about him kind of leading that group. And then we've got on the women's side, we're really, really deep. We got a lot of women who can be really, really good assets to the program. Maureen Chariot is somebody who has a shot at making nationals. Cammie Kaiser is somebody who's been right close to all region before. She's certainly somebody that's going to help lead our team as well. Ella Cook, took a real big step this outdoor season. She's on the younger end, and so she'll have 2 to 3 more years here with the 5 years now. But we've got a lot of women in this program who can really step up, and we've got major depth, and it should be fun to see on both the men and the women's side. What we're capable of doing this fall. I think we can surprise some folks for sure. So.
Well, lots of reason to be excited. Coach Webb, I'll give you just about the same question. Fans of Pitt Athletics who maybe aren't as locked in on your program, what do they need to know about as we look forward to this year?
Yeah, they need to know that, we have athletes here that are really dedicated, really caring about the university itself. They're going to do the right things. They're going to make the right decisions all the time, and they're going to work hard. This is a blue-collar town. I was born and raised here, and I told everybody when they come here, when the recruits, this is a blue-collar program. We don't make excuses. We don't accept excuses. We just outwork people. And that's the culture we have here. That's the culture. And if they don't want to be pushed every day to be better as a student, as an athlete, and as a young man or a young woman, then don't come here, And we're really strict about that. What you see is what you get here, And that's the way I was raised. That's the way this program is. That's the way the city is. You can't fool people. You have to outwork people if you want to be successful in anything, any aspect of life you have that you want to be good at. So, yeah, this is a program here that we don't make excuses, and we're ready to go. My staff is amazing, Everybody that comes into the office, and it's like a family. We hold each other accountable, too. We're not going to let something slide because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We're really real, and we get into our staff meetings, and if we have uncomfortable conversations, and that's, I think, the way it is. And we love each other because of that, and we can trust each other because of that.
It truly seems like a family on your staff, and one of the many reasons why you've been so successful in your 24 years here. Coach Graves been good to welcome you in the past few years as well. So, Guys, great conversation. Thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Really appreciate being on.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And with that, we welcome in Jeff Capel, entering his 9th season as Pitt men's basketball head coach. Jeff, thanks so much for being with us here on the Beyond the Script podcast. How's the summer been so far?
Summer's been great. Guys have worked really hard. It's been cool getting to know them. Obviously, we have a lot of new guys, new faces on the team, new faces on the coaching staff, and so it's a lot of newness. It's a lot of getting to know, and that's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and it's good that it's one of your favorite things because in this world of college sports now, there's going to be a lot of newness. Yeah. So if you're embracing that challenge, definitely helps. Speaking of all the change that's happening, this was the first year, and I wanted to ask you about this because this is something that's changed each of the last 3 years now is the portal date opening, right? So this year they move it actually to the end of the tournament. So first day after the national championship game is when it officially opens. How have you had to kind of alter your preparation process for that each year, being that it keeps changing?
Yeah. I think the reason that it was moved this year is to try to give everyone a chance to maybe work and to concentrate the teams that are in the tournament and that advance so they can maybe concentrate on that. There's really no exact science to it because you're really working on it all year. You certainly don't talk to the kids, or you're not supposed to, but you're talking to agents.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have a feel of who's going to go into the portal. And so really what you're trying to do is gather as much information as you can. So the fact that it was pushed back until after the tournament, it gives you a chance maybe to find more information. This is the first year that we've had a GM. The first 3 years of this, or the first 4 years, we've just kind of done it. And, one of my assistants has done it. And so, the fact that we had a GM, he had a staff that he put together, we felt like we were maybe a little bit more prepared for the portal this time as opposed to previous years.
You mentioned the GM and him having the full opportunity really to truly be with you guys throughout this season and know what you're looking for as that portal approaches and going into the following year. Also, 2 new assistant coaches. I want to give you a chance to touch on them, Ricardo Greer and Ronald Ramon, 2 guys that wore the jersey. What made each of them right for this job, and what have the early benefits been from having them?
Yeah, well, both Ronald and Ricardo, like you mentioned, they played here. They understand what it means to wear this jersey. They have a lot of pride in this place, their time here. But more important for me is that they're 2 really good coaches and really good men. They're guys that the young guys in our program can look up to as men. They both have great families. They're both involved in the community. It happens to help that they were both heck of basketball players. But they've brought a great deal of energy, of passion, experience, expertise, and they fit in really, really well with us and with the guys on the team.
And all that stuff definitely helps, again, when we talk about the newness and the change in the roster, and you can have those guys that have worn the jersey and help to establish that Pitt culture is huge. 13 new players this offseason, 11 of which are transfers, 6 from the ACC. And that's one of the things I want to ask you about is how does that process work for you as you're obviously watching guys throughout the season that you're playing against? I imagine it's not a coincidence now that you have 6 from the league with your team, but what do you kind of think through when you're playing against these guys and then now all of a sudden guys that maybe Pitt fans watch on other teams that, oh, they're on our team now. That's good.
Well, you really have to look at your mindset has to completely change now because the reality is that everyone's a free agent.
Yeah.
And so anytime you play someone, you may make a mental note. We may say, hey, this guy's really good, or perhaps it's a guy that we recruited out of high school that we didn't get. He goes somewhere and, he wants to leave. And so we just want to get really good players, guys that we feel like fit us and what we're trying to do. We understand who we are and where we are. And we understand that, Pitt's not for everyone, and that's cool. We want guys that want to be here, that want to be a part of what we're doing, and that want to build something. And, I felt like we were doing that for 2.5 years. And then, we had an injury to Dunn, and that season fell apart. And then obviously last year was last year. I really like the makeup of this team. We're older. We have more experience. I think we'll have more depth. And these guys have been tremendous this summer in picking up things. Their competitiveness is something that I love. And they've been a joy to be around every day.
Yeah, and there's been excitement about the roster, certainly this year, but even in past years as well. And like you kind of alluded to, injuries that you truly can do nothing about that pop up and then tends to derail things. But so many great additions to this year. But a big returner, Makari Moore, who played a key role in a lot of games last season. What were some of your conversations like with him as he's weighing his options? Because I imagine just about everybody does now at the end of each year. They're thinking about what they should do and how to spend their next season. What were those chats like between you and him, and what ultimately led him to come back?
Yeah, well, Mac was one of the guys, I mentioned to him when we met that I'd love to have him back because he was a guy that never quit. He kept fighting, and he kept learning. He was a freshman. I probably should have played him more, but he had an unbelievable attitude every day, and he got better. And like you mentioned, he played a pivotal role for us in some big games and did really well. He wanted to be back. I think he just wanted to know what we thought as a coaching staff. And so that one really wasn't that difficult. We wanted him back. He wanted to be here. He believes in what we were doing. We told him there's going to be a lot of change. At the time I didn't know it would be, we'd lose everyone except for him. But that's the way it happened. And like you mentioned, these guys have opportunities now, and, they do what they think is best for them. We're going to do what we think is best for us. And fortunately for us, Mac is someone that felt the same way.
Yeah, and that's just the way it works now in college basketball. How have you noticed changes in him this year? In this new world, you're going to see more of that, where a guy who's a sophomore, a second-year player, maybe 10 years ago, you don't often see those type of guys taking on leadership roles, but now he is the leading contributor in terms of returning guys. How has he embraced that in terms of welcoming all the new faces?
Well, you can tell that he has experience, because the very first thing is that he's a much better practice player. That's really the biggest part of his growth. Towards the end of the year, he finally understood how to practice and the importance of practice. He's been really, really sharp in practice, which has led to anytime we've done 5-on-5 or competition things, his team has won a lot, whatever team that he's on. And so I think that's the biggest adjustment, is that he's learned how to practice. It's typical. He is like most freshmen last year. And you can tell the difference now of a guy that has experience and how he's approaching his sophomore season.
Yeah, and I'm glad we were able to touch on him and appreciate what you've said about him, just because obviously a lot of transfers to be excited about, some freshmen that people are really pumped about, but we don't want to look past the contributions he gave you last year, and excited to see how he's grown this year as well. With all the new faces, I imagine another challenge that it kind of presents to you is you're trying to instill your system in these new guys. How do you kind of balance X's and O's basketball stuff with also like, hey, let's just make sure these guys get to know each other and know what it's like to be together?
Well, I think that's the biggest part. And that was the biggest thing for us in the 8 weeks we had with them this summer. Per NCAA rules, we're allowed to work with them for 8 weeks. Some of them have been here a little bit longer. They had a couple of weeks where they played and worked out on their own. But for me, the most important thing was for me to get to know them, to get to know them, to get to know their games, not just watching them on tape or coaching against them or watching them on Synergy, to really get to know and to have a better feel. So when we get back and start working out in September and start official practice in September, I have, and when I say I'm talking about us as a coaching staff, we have a better sense of who it is that we're coaching. I've always believed that if you really know someone and you have a genuine relationship with them, that's how you can get the best out of them. And that's what the 8 weeks were for me. It was X and O stuff for sure, but it was more of me getting to know them getting to know us, them getting to know each other, and then seeing what we have. And over the next few weeks, we'll get together as a coaching staff and go over what we've seen this summer, and we'll have a better idea as we head into September of how we want to put this thing together.
A lot of people will use the phrase, you've got an entirely new team this year. Maybe true to some extent, but you also have a really unique situation where 4 guys have played AAU ball with each other. Nate George, Baindongo, Armani Mighty, and Ibrahim Soare. How did that happen? How have you seen, how much does that help in this era of change? So many new guys coming from all these different places, but you do have familiarity among those 4.
Yeah, well, Bai, Nate, and Ski, that's Akir.
Okay.
Those 3 were at Georgia Tech together. And Nate and Bai especially had a really good connection. Nate decides to leave to transfer to Syracuse. Nate and Ski did. Bai stayed. I think what happened, it didn't work out for Nate like he thought it would. I think they were looking to get back together. Nate and Bai were looking for that because of the connection that they had. That's something that we were able to identify in recruiting, just in talking to agents, talking to their agent, that was something that, they were perhaps looking to do. And then Armani was one that they kind of brought along with them. So they're all represented by the same agent. I mean, this is the way it goes now in recruiting, man. So it's, you have to, adapt and adjust, and we're very fortunate to get all of them.
And I imagine stories like that, if you told Jeff Capel of 8 years ago that would be something you would be doing, I don't know if you would have believed it.
No, I would not. I would not have. Definitely not.
Yeah, lots different now.
Yep.
Who has stepped up as a vocal leader in the summer?
Well, I think, Alon Sumler has done a good job with it. Jonathan Powell, JP, has had a great voice. Nate has had a really good voice. Again, we have some older guys, and one of the things I've loved is that they all want to win. None of these guys have really won, or the ones that have, they haven't been big contributors. Like Alabama won last year. BYU won, where Dom was, but neither won. Jalil at Alabama, Dom, they weren't big contributors. And so all of these guys, JP won.
Yeah.
At North Carolina. They were a team that made the tournament, but he wasn't a big contributor. And so the biggest thing for us is guys understand there's going to have to be a lot of sacrifice, but the main thing is that we need to win. And in order for us to win, everyone has to be on the same page, pulling in the right direction. That's been the thing that I've been most excited about, because I've seen that all summer.
Yeah, and one more thing on Bai as well. I know, Georgia Tech, one of those teams, maybe not from a winning program necessarily last year, but he's a guy who we have conversations at your shoot-arounds with commentators that come in. I remember for years they've been talking about him as a potential NBA guy and an extremely high ceiling and somebody that, it seems like NBA people have been paying attention to for a long time. What about him in terms of his summer progression and the ways he's kind of adapting to your system so far?
Yeah, Bai, when he got here, he was a little banged up. He had a knee injury that he played through last year at Georgia Tech. We wanted to get him as healthy as possible. And so the first couple of weeks, we were really in management with him and what we did. So a lot of his stuff was from an individual basis to get his knee stronger, to get in shape and things like that. He's talented. He's versatile defensively. He's been a really good offensive rebounder in his 3 years. He's been a 12-8 guy. My challenge to him is to be a double-double guy. I think that's something that he can do. But there's a lot to work with there, and we're really excited about having them and pushing them and trying to bring out the best in them.
One thing that you mentioned to me when Bub Carrington was here that stuck with me, you would always say, we knew he would be good. We didn't know he was going to be this good this fast. Maybe you don't have a lottery pick on the team right now, or maybe you do. But has there been anybody in a similar way that has surprised you right out of the gate with, hey, when we watched him on film, we knew he'd be all right, but man, seeing him in person, seeing him here over the summer, anything that you've noticed or qualities about guys that maybe you didn't knew they had?
No, not so much. I mean, there's been, I hesitate to compare anyone to Bub.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Bub that made it that way, at least what I thought, was the way his mind worked, how quickly he picked up things, how he remembered everything, and just, to come here and to have to be a point guard and to be able to do that when you've never played the position, it showed his mind was just very, very different. All of these guys that we have all had moments this summer where we're like, man, this is really, really good. All of them. And so there's not been one that stood out. All of them have stood out to me.
What does the timeline look like for you in the team? Obviously, the fall semester going to start up pretty soon in terms of now and in between that mid-October first exhibition against Providence. What gets done in that time?
Yeah, well, it's a lot that needs to get done. Again, we have to continue to get stronger, to get in great shape, basketball shape, and for guys to really hone in on their roles. That's going to be one of the biggest things. Guys have to accept their roles, star in their role, and have great attitudes every day. One of the things that I've said is to, consistently since I've been here, is to really focus on being a great teammate. If you do that, then all of your individual stuff will be able to show. But help others, help people, be a great teammate, have a great attitude, and if we do that, I really think it can be an exciting season.
Yeah, I agree. And in this era, you are our example of proof with what you did in the 22-23 season. This is no longer a time in college sports where you need 4 years to turn around a program. You guys might not have made the tournament last year. That can change in 1 year. And a lot of people believe you guys have the roster to do it. Ton of tremendous additions that people are excited about. But what do you think that people maybe are missing right now with this team that you've seen in terms of reasons to be excited about what you guys can do throughout this year as we approach the season?
Yeah, well, I think one of the things, and it'll be something that's different from the teams we've had really during my whole time here, but I look at the job as two different jobs. It was pre-NIL, which is my first 4 years, and NIL.
Yeah.
In the NIL period, we've been better.
Mm-hmm.
We're 76 and 58 over the last 4 years. I think we're 39 and 38 in the ACC. Certainly not exactly where we want to be, but certainly better than it was the first four. You mentioned the 2022-23 season. The year before, we lost 21 games. We had a team, I thought, at the end of that season that quit, that kind of dropped the rope. And so we had to go get a lot of new guys, and we did. And we had some bumps early in the season where we lost those 3 games in a row. That team stayed together. They continued to fight. They continued to push. And by the end, we were a really good basketball team. And that's what we're hoping this year. Obviously, last year, there was no one more disappointing than me.
Yeah.
And that's not a knock to any fan or anyone, but there was no one more disappointed than me in our performance. And that's my responsibility. We feel like we've gone out and we've put together a roster that can fix it. We'll have more quality depth, so we should be able to play more guys. Now, obviously, we have to stay healthy. Hopefully that allows us to pick up a little bit more defensively. I think we have a chance to be a little bit more versatile. We'll certainly be bigger than we've been the past few years. Hopefully we stay healthy.
Yeah.
We can do that. We have an experienced point guard, who 2 years ago led this league in assists. I think we'll have shooting. We have guys that can really shoot the basketball. And so I'm excited about what I think we can become. That's why, for me, the most important thing is the attitude and then guys understanding their roles. This summer has been great because it gave me a chance and us a chance as a coaching staff to watch that, to talk about that, to get them to understand that. It's one thing to talk about it, but we've been able to see it. We've been able to see guys investing into that and understanding that. If we can embrace that all year long And, you've heard me say before, it's different when the lights come on. You can do that in the summer, no one's watching, but, all of a sudden when there are people in the stands and the band is playing and, the popcorn's going and things like that, that's when you really start to figure out who you are. But I really like who we are right now. Even more, I like who I think we can become.
Plenty of pieces on the roster to be excited about. And you mentioned the one team a few years back maybe dropping the rope. For what it's worth, I think last year in particular, it was really fun to watch your guys, despite the injuries, despite some of the obstacles, battling till the end of the season, even in the ACC tournament, not giving up. And I think you've always done a great job of getting the most out of your guys, getting them to battle. And like you said, if everyone can stay healthy, a ton of potential for this season.
Our team got better last year.
Yeah.
That was the thing for me that I enjoy. I didn't enjoy the results, and I certainly did not enjoy the final record. But the last 3 weeks of the season, we got better, and we were playing well. I think we were playing as well as that team could have played. And I was really proud of them. I was very sincere when I told them that, when I said it after our last game last year. I was really proud of the fact that they stayed together, they fought, and they became the best versions of themselves in that moment through so much adversity throughout the season. Injuries, a lot of noise around our program, a lot of noise concerning me. Everyone blocked it out. They showed up every day with a great attitude, and because of that, we got better. Yeah,
and I don't want to spend too much time looking in the rear view, but you're right. And you guys went to Cal in late February. Cal's a tournament team, and you went and obviously gave them a ton of trouble. So I appreciate it, Coach. But just as we wrap up here, looking forward to this season, last things you want to express about why people should be excited about what this team can do.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited about our team. I'm really excited about our guys. I think we have a chance to be a good basketball team. Hopefully we can become a good basketball team, then become a really good basketball team as we start to hopefully have some success. But, we have a lot of pieces, a lot of different ways we think we can play. And we look forward to hopefully bringing a lot of joy in the Peterson Event Center.
Jeff, thanks so much. Appreciate you being on. Hopefully we'll get the chance to chat again here before the season starts in November. But congrats on a good summer here, and we're really looking forward to the season. So thanks for being with us here on the Beyond the Script.
Thanks for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Beyond the Script podcast. Big thank you to Alonzo Webb III, and Griff Graves, along with Jeff Capel, for joining us as we continue to count down the days toward another exciting season of Pitt Athletics, including our track and field, cross-country programs, and Pitt men's basketball. If you like what you heard, make sure to follow our socials at Pitt_athletics, and also follow along at PittsburghPanthers.com. We'll see you next time on Beyond the Script. Until then, be well and hail to Pitt.